The petitioner's property is located on Winona Lake. Warsaw's municipal code treats both street side and lakeside as front yards, so it is often difficult to place detached garages on these lots. The proposed garage will be approximately 95 feet from the road and will not negatively impact visibility of traffic entering or exiting adjacent properties. Given the size of the petitioner's lot, the location of the detached garage and the surrounding neighborhood, the proposed garage will not be injurious to the public or have an adverse effect on the value of adjacent property. So, and this is just to refresh you from last, a couple months ago, the planning department is still giving a positive recommendation to this case. So based on the information provided, it is the opinion of the planning department that this case could be viewed favorably when measured by the criteria delineated within the findings of fact.
As someone who wasn't here last time, can you quickly fill me in on why this is carried over? And
I think, I'm trying to remember who all was here that day, but I think you guys wanted some additional information. After reviewing what can be considered by this board, things like the siding and different things, that's not up for consideration because they're not requesting alterations from the existing building code. And those things are covered by the existing building code. They're only asking if they can locate it here with it not being attached to the house. Now, were they to say build a hallway and connect it to their house, they would be allowed to do that. So, but you cannot have a detached structure in front of the house, so, but with the current zoning regulations.
Is there mailing?
Yes.
Pro con?
Did we receive anything in writing?
Sorry?
No, nothing besides what was in the meeting last time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we open? With that, we'll open it to anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this petition. I think you're familiar with it, but state your name, please.
Well, I'm not familiar. This is the first time I've been in a meeting like this.
Well, I've only been here 10 or 12 years, so.
My name's Josh Salzgiver. I'm an employee of Woodman Builders, and I'm here on behalf of KT and Anita Kashan, property owners of 903 Glee Minor. And just want to take a few minutes and go through a few reasons on why I think this variance should be granted. This project will not alter the land use and characteristics of the district. The proposed garage will be used for private residential purposes only, and it will not deviate from the current characteristics of the neighborhood. Adjacent property to the north, 901 Glee Minor, has an attached garage off the front of the home with a side access and detached garage. Would look from the street very similar.
Excuse me a second, Josh, can everybody hear him?
No, let's move the
Hold on, yeah,
microphone
hold
up.
on.
Sure. Are you guys interested in seeing any sort of drawing or document
Sure,
on some
I
of
will.
the things I'm discussing? Jay can pass those
I
out.
wasn't here last time, so.
Okay. And then
You were talking about the neighbor has a
they have an
attached garage.
attached. Appreciate
Is
it.
there, going forward, is there a freestanding building you were talking about in the neighborhood as well? That's what I was.
Yes, then the next property to the north, which is 945 Country Club, which is visible from 903 Glee Minor, that has a large detached accessory structure in the front yard.
And is that example of that in the handout that we just received?
It is in there, yes.
Okay.
In that handout. This project will not impair the adequate supply of light and air to adjacent properties. 903 is a large lot, as was mentioned prior, and all required setbacks will be followed. And again, the front setback would easily be doubled of what the current requirement is at 25 feet. This project will not increase the hazard from fire, flood, or other damages to the property. Any minimum fire distances will easily be provided between this and other structures, and 903 is not located in a floodplain. This project will not diminish the marketable value of adjacent lands in buildings. The proposed garage will increase the property value of 903 and therefore have a positive effect on surrounding properties. And again, the proposed garage will match the construction and aesthetics of the existing home. You know, like siding, like roofing material will be used, roof pitch, roof line will be very similar as well of what the current home has. So it'll fit in nicely. And it will also be of proper scale to the home as well. It will look like a garage, not a barn. This project will not increase congestion in public streets, and the strict letter of ordinance does impose a hardship, an undue hardship for this property. Again, it's a lakefront property, so the lakeside is often considered as the front yard, just as the true front yard is, and the lakeside yard is just as visible as the front. It's also a narrow lot, so access to the rear of the property is not possible if there were an accessory structure located back there. And when I say access, I'm meaning by a vehicle. Again, the proposed garage is for private residential use only and will blend well into the existing site and surrounding properties. Do you have any questions about the diagrams that are before you?
Well, I'm looking at this, and then I'm looking at the current one. So it looks like it goes no further than that driveway that's at a 90-degree angle to the driveway into the current garage. Is that correct?
And you're now looking at 903 Lee Minor? Yes.
Your friend just handed this out,
Yeah.
and it looks like the proposal projects out, this Photoshop, it says Photoshop, projects out to the same distance out as that driveway where the car is parked in this green photo right here.
Yeah.
Is that a correct statement?
I believe so.
Okay, and that is, the lake is on the other side, right?
Correct.
Okay, so, now I see what I'm looking at. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, I got it. What you got here looks like it's part of the house. I mean, that's a garage, but you're saying that what I'm looking at here is what it'll look like when it's done?
Very similar, but what you're seeing, if you were to look at a site plan, which there may be one there does show some distance between the home and the building. I have
Just to
another.
make sure we're clear, I don't think this is the neighbor's. I think this is his house with the proposed insert here of what this thing's gonna look like, as I understand it.
That is correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the Photoshop. They laid it in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very similar to what's already there.
Right, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
I think we've
I
got
see
it.
Okay,
Thank you,
Thank
Josh.
you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this proposal?
Thank you. I'm Steve Snyder here on behalf of the neighbors, David and Darlene Holsclaw. I haven't had an opportunity to see what was submitted. If there's a copy available. Thank you. The biggest concern the neighbors have is there is nothing in this open front yard. And in order for there to be the ability to place something there, they have to have your approval. Because there's a reason why the zoning ordinance says you can't have a detached garage in a front yard, because it doesn't look good. It does change the character of the neighborhood in that in this particular neighborhood, you have large roadside yards, grassy areas, and significant houses of significant cost. Now you're talking about placing something a significant distance from the existing structure towards the roadway out in what, if you look at the distance on the map, is roughly halfway between the existing house and the roadway, a standalone structure. There may be one to the property to the north, but if you look at the aerial photo, and I handed these out 2 months ago when we were here, if you look at the aerial photo, it's very close to the existing structure and almost appears to be a part of the existing structure, as opposed to something that is a significant distance away from the existing structure. That changes the character of the neighborhood completely. We can Photoshop in this structure, and the submission that has been made shows what the distance is from the existing garage. The architectural style, and I don't know how accurate that is of what's being proposed, is questionable in regard to the house. It looks like a garage, and it looks like a garage that's in the middle of the roadside yard, not even reasonably close to the existing structure, so that it doesn't interfere with what is the character of the neighborhood. Is the property unique? No, it's no more unique than any other property in the area. They all have large roadside yards. They all have lakeside yards. So this property is no more unique than the whole Squaw property or the property at 907. They simply have been designed with large, deep lakefront lots to preserve that open area. Without the showing of some hardship, there is no way to approve what is being proposed. There has been no indication that this structure could not be attached to the residence, tied in architecturally, and serve exactly the same purpose as an additional garage beside the two-car garage that's already there. Without some hardship, there is no basis for approval. What we have heard so far is just that this is what they would like to have, and I understand that. I present those kind of hearings or petitions to boards of zoning appeals all the time. It's what we like, but the question better answered is, does it meet the requirements of the ordinance? As I indicated at our hearing 2 months ago, we believe the elements have not been met for the simple reason there's no hardship. It does change the character of the neighborhood, and it will have a negative impact on the value of homes in the neighborhood. As a result, without meeting those requirements, we believe the petition should be denied. The petitioners can look at a different method for creating additional garage space to go with their residence without changing the character of the neighborhood. Questions?
What is the distance, 95 feet from the street, what's the distance from the house? Do you know?
I don't know. I know based on my measurement, the parking lot, the parking area where this is to be built is 103 feet from the road right-of-way. The whole Squaw structure is 165 feet from the right-of-way.
So it'd be about 60, 70 feet.
So it could be a significant difference between these two structures.
All right, if you would hold for just a minute, I want to get a better feel for it.
I think it would be about 60, like you said, because
Thank you for the moment.
And I'm
Questions
not
for-
sure whether the materials we handed out 2 months ago have been made available to you again tonight or not.
No, I don't think we can, I didn't keep my copy.
I kept mine.
Okay. If anybody wants to look at another one, I've got an extra.
Thank you, that's exactly what I was doing. Thank you. All right. While I'm reviewing that, are there questions?
Mr. President, I don't have any questions for him. I'd like to hear from the other fellow again about why this location is.
You'd like to bring Josh back up before we do that, allowing his rebuttal. Is there any questions or no concerns? Okay. All right, with that, thank you, Steve. We'll give Josh a chance to come back up with a quick comment for the question that Richards has for him.
Did you guys have any specific questions?
Yes, he did.
Right. Why not attach it to the house or put it a short distance from the house, if that's the issue?
Could I bring this diagram up
Please.
to you?
Yeah. That's what I was actually checking on. I don't think can be done.
That's just another one there.
Okay, show me what you want me to see.
This is 903 Lee Minor, the property we're talking about.
Hold on a second. Steve, do you want to come up and see this while he's explaining?
I'm sorry.
Please join us.
Do you want to come up and see this, what he's explaining?
That way you can have your turn real quick. So what I think is going on here, correct, is that is,
Let Steve get oriented here, this is the problem.
So this is 903 Lee Minor.
right,
This is where the proposed location of the garage. would
and
go.
this is the current.
This is, there's a current driveway into the garage here.
So
There's
the
also-
entrance is right there.
Entrance is there, there's a little bit of a, kind of a turnaround, because there used to be a garage that's out there.
That's correct, I remember
So
that from the last meeting.
that is the proposed location, because it's just a very, very good flow.
Now, this looks like it's attached to, practically attached to the garage, is that correct?
What's that?
I think the garage
The garage is right here,
Okay, where's the proposed structure gonna be
right in this.
Right there, I think that's driveway right there where the car.
then? Okay, that's, sorry, the bifocals aren't allowing it, okay, so that's the driveway.
Because the original, the
The original.
real garage is right up here, and, well, I can't, right there, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the,
And this is where an old garage used to be, if I remember from the last meeting, right?
so there is a bit, the driveway, it's a shared driveway with 901, and then the driveway itself has a bit of a turnaround area right here. And you can see right under that number 1, this little bit of white, that's actually a vehicle parked right there.
Yeah,
And it's not parked in the grass, it's parked on hard surface.
right.
Okay.
And then as well too, I mean, we say that this looks very far from the home. This is the property two properties to the north. There's a great distance from this.
Why do you not want it here? Just because the flow is hard to get to there, or why it's, or Steve, were you proposing to be over here or something like that, attached to the car?
Yeah, you're basically moving it about 40 feet towards the lake to get it to there, right? If I've got my dimensions correct.
And why do you not want it there?
Well, if you have a garage right here, this would be kind of difficult to come in and make a turn directly right into there. This already has flow this direction, and see how much, this is all pavement right here.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of area to turn in here. If it is now, like if this was your only drive here, it is a very difficult turn to make.
Isn't that a two-car, currently a two-car or two-and-a-half-car garage? The current,
Two.
2.5.
There's a well right there.
Oh, there's a well?
Impedes on that.
There's a well.
There's a well right to the right. And so
Where's the well? Show me, Josh.
It impedes on putting the garage.
So you can't move it up too much?
So you're talking about a well right in here?
I'm guessing the well would sit somewhere in this area.
Jail tight.
Somewhere in this area, maybe.
Yeah, there's a well right.
That's the garage.
Right. This is the proposed garage.
Oh, boy.
An active well?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that gets kind of, you gotta.
You gotta
somehow
respect
Cover
that.
that up with concrete and put a driveway over the top of it or something.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
Can't put a building
Can't
on
do
it.
You can't build over.
Okay.
It has to be accessible to a well.
Right.
Or a rig, yeah.
So,
It takes a lot of space.
Well, then how do you move it closer then?
Well, that's what
Okay,
we're
That's
that's-
that's why it is where it is. It's in the turnaround, along with the fact that trying to put,
So
You
this
know,
is late,
extend the
late
garage
breaking
out.
news, huh?
trying to extend the garage out creates an issue because of just bringing vehicles in, you really can't go wider.
Yeah.
And so going wider presents a problem because you're heading right towards that well. And if you go deeper, then you gotta pull vehicles out to get, you know, to get a vehicle in, so that creates an issue.
And the proposed usage is for vehicles?
Yes,
And you're still looking at 24 by 24?
yes.
Can you show on this photograph that you submitted where that wellhead is? I can't see it.
So
Is this an accurate depiction? I mean, is it gonna look just like the house? Is it?
No,
This is
Here, you can't see
exactly what the thing.
That was just somebody photoshopped in from something else, yeah.
This is the property infrastructure.
might be.
This is what now?
I said the property infrastructure.
But that is the premise of why you're
So she is trying to blend it to, is that the idea?
Well,
just leave
trying to go to the right,
Idea.
and then try to go towards the neighbor.
I was gonna say aesthetically, it's gonna match the house.
Okay, that's what I want to hear.
yes.
It's not gonna be
Right.
plywood.
Left setback, and then if there's some concern to enter from a bedroom,
It would not.
go
Not a
to
pole barn,
Not one of Dan's toy forts or something.
not a
No.
pole barn style.
No, it's gonna look
Any bobsleds?
as good as
All
this.
right, did that answer your question?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's good.
I kind of added to it, actually. With that wellhead there, that kind of,
Well, that changes it a little.
yeah, it changes it, yeah. I mean, it was kind of an issue before, but now.
Well, what it does is it explains why the location was selected
Yes.
a little bit.
Yes, it
The
does.
setbacks is another reason why it was selected.
But nobody knew that prior to just now?
Well, I didn't.
I didn't.
I don't think it came up.
That didn't come up last
I don't
meeting.
think Steve knew either, the way it sounded, but.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you did either.
So a few things. For a developmental standard variance, there's stuff that you have to find. And you're starting with the premises that the ordinance does not allow detached accessory
Freestanding.
building in the front yard. And in this case, because it's on a lake, there's two front yards,
They're
street
both
yard,
front.
lakes are, there's.
Correct.
But you'd have to find in writing that the approval would not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community.
Okay.
That doesn't seem to be the difficult part here at all.
No.
You'd have to find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. And it's, you guys get to decide what substantially adverse means.
Was there any evidence presented showing that it was substantially adverse, that did people opposed say anything to that effect? They have something more real?
Well, I think his client did. That was the premise of his objection to
Yeah,
it.
there's the only one.
Okay.
And then
It would be the only
lastly,
one in the area.
for you, you'd have to find in writing that the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property.
We just found that, didn't we?
Mm-mm.
No.
Well,
no,
I'm not telling
location-
you what you find or don't find, that's for you all to
No, I
decide.
understand what you're
that.
saying.
I just want to remind
He
you,
just said that, is there a difficulty, but that's not, the well is not related to the freestanding building, there are two issues.
Yeah.
The fact that they can't move it closer is because of the well. We have to decide if we can allow them to put a freestanding building in that area. The well has nothing to do with it,
Okay.
because there's a well there, that doesn't change the
Right.
ordinance, is what he, my.
so I
quote.
think basically what you're left with, if, from my opinion, is you got to decide whether it substantially affects the neighbor or adjacent properties in a substantially adverse manner. And then number two, whether your zoning ordinance creates practical difficulties in the use of the property. And
that's.
And it's starting with the premises that they're not allowed. So the burden is on the petitioner.
Yes, sir, would you like a quick comment?
I would like a point of clarification. Scott indicated you had to find there was a practical difficulty, yet section 6.7.3.1 of your ordinance says it has to be because of an unusual and unnecessary hardship to the owner, as opposed to mere inconvenience or economic hardship.
And that's all true.
Okay.
But I think what Rick was trying to clarify is how, when you said it, it looked like because of the well, that actually caused the difficulty, but that's a separate issue. That's not a hardship.
You get to determine what hardship means.
I
Our own-
understand.
Our own ordinance allows you to define what a practical difficulty is, and it does, and it's defined that practical difficulties are not what Mr. Snyder just read. We have that codified in our ordinance, so.
Okay. Any comments?
What stage are we at? Are we closed to the public and now just making our own comments, or what?
We haven't closed it to the public yet, I just wanna make sure we had that okay
Okay.
before I did.
I don't think
Nothing further?
I don't know, it's up to them.
Go ahead and close.
All right, for that, we'll close it to the public. My only thought is that freestanding is still freestanding, and 2 out of the 3 are at least in question here, and that's why it has come before us. So I think what we have to decide is, what is there enough damage to, or possible damage to, the real estate area is one of them, and is there enough practical difficulty to allow the change in the zoning? And those are the 2 issues that I think are coming into play here. And I'd like to hear a couple of comments about the real estate idea.
Well, and I'm gonna differ with you, I really think we only have one, I think 2 of them I'm fine with, 1 I'm not.
Okay,
I'm questioning.
on the freestanding in the neighborhood?
Yep.
Okay. I don't, my concern was that, to say that there is a practical difficulty, I have a little trouble with that one as well. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think the freestanding is the bigger issue, and I agree with that. Comments? Either one, Jeff, Dan?
I don't have a problem with it.
You don't have a problem with it, Rick?
Well, we've done a lot of garages over the years, freestanding and whatnot, and to me, they only help the value. I've never seen one where it diminished the value. And there's a sense that in a neighborhood where you start restricting what people can do, now I'm more familiar with my neighborhood, which is kind of the hood. But when you tell people, we're not gonna let you improve your property by putting a garage up, that puts a negative cast on things, and frankly,
Garages that I think we've handled, and you and I have been doing this a long time together, is in areas where, one, there wasn't a garage, or there was a practical need for an additional garage, handicap issues came into play, and things like that. So while I agree with your thought process on it, this one is a little bit different because nobody's been on a lake that I recall with a 95-foot.
we've dealt with a lot of lake
Oh,
properties
yeah,
and stuff on.
and I'd rather have them all moved out of the city limits for my practicality of
But
it.
I don't think the principle's different. I don't think, in my opinion, that adding a garage hurts. I just don't, I don't think it's different because it's in a wealthier neighborhood than a not-so-wealthy neighborhood. And if it's gonna be something like that, where it's blended in with the house, in my opinion, no one's even gonna notice it.
Yeah.
And they had a garage there once before, nobody said anything, apparently it was old, they tore it down. It just, to me, it's a non-issue.
And that's my point, Tom. They had a garage there before, and I'm in favor of putting another one there, as long as it blends with the neighborhood and the house.
Well, I think that was the point of what Mr. Snyder's comments were, is that it's not exactly a fit in the neighborhood, is what his point was. And I'm just reiterating that for now. And I know that's also, Tammy, that's your concern as well.
No, actually, no, I don't have a concern with that one.
That's okay?
Yeah,
State what you don't have a concern with.
what's our first one that Scott was going over again? That's where I think I'm a little grayer.
I thought it was the
But-
value of the homes in the area was the
No.
first thing we mentioned.
No, that was the second. What was the first?
What was the
It
first
was
one? Or the-
number 3 on here, the practical difficulty one.
Practical difficulty.
Yeah,
There are none to you.
no,
Okay. Dan?
None. Jeff?
How does traffic?
You have a neighborhood that has set up ordinances to keep things from happening. And if we approve it, we're gonna change that. And I'm not sure that, we have one person that is opposed.
As
One
far as
neighbor.
we're aware of, we have.
One person in the neighborhood that's opposed to it, and there's several people in that neighborhood. I don't have a problem with anything other than just exactly what the ordinance says.
Yeah, the reason they're here is because it's outside of the ordinance.
That's the only problem I have with the whole thing, is just what the ordinance says. Are we going to
And I had
change
two,
it?
Tammy, you only got the one. What we come back to as a group historically is once you open that door, then you're back to, okay, is that now all the other neighbors can come in and say that or not. That's the problem that I have with these, because ultimately, those come back. And that's what my concern has been, that's from a historic view. Now, if everybody does it, then nobody cares, then nobody cares, but.
You know, one garage isn't gonna change the way it looks, but 6 will.
Two or three could do it. To me, that was the practicality of it. The reason they're here is because, and then I had a tough time actually with the two, because I don't necessarily agree with Rick, which is odd for the two of us, but I think that you have to be cautious about value and what can happen with a freestanding structure in the neighborhood. That to me is, goes back a long way in my history, so you have to be cautious for that.
Well, there are two other, as Josh pointed out, there are two other to the north of that property, Curlin's, and then whoever owns that one just north of Curlin's there, both of them are larger lots. The one is an older property anyway, and it's had that detached building forever and ever. Curlin's, of course, has been there forever and ever, and, they built that with the house.
I believe Curlin's is on a separate piece of property.
It might be, yeah, it is too.
Yeah, it's
But
not,
either way,
Yeah,
it's a
but either way, it's
freestanding
freestanding.
yes,
structure.
it is freestanding, but,
And it's on their property whether it's
Yes.
combined or not.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
Well, I think we've got this horse pretty well corralled. Somebody want to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve this variance.
I'll second that.
Then I'll third it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I thought you two were gonna shoot me down.
Opposed.
You're what?
Opposed.
He's opposed.
Yep.
Okay, so we need one more?
Thanks. Until he did that,
You thought you were gonna go home scot-free?
I kind of thought I was going to get out of it. I'm not wild about it, I gotta tell you.
What's your conscience?
Mhm.
I oppose it.
Okay,
I oppose
motion dies.
it. So that, Counselor, just to make sure we're correct about that, 3-4, 2 against,
Right.
it's what?
Well, you have another board member who's not here, is that right?
Right.
Everyone's here.
No, I'm sorry, you're thinking of planning.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's a cast of thousands.
We're all here.
We're all here. 3-4, 2 against.
Well, I think it's just a majority vote that's required.
I think it is too.
Yeah, so we only
Yeah,
takes
so we're
three.
okay.
So
I
it
thought-
passes.
I was misunderstanding the number of,
Yeah, there was
Board
2 in
member.
No, I was
opposition.
wrong too. I was thinking there was somebody missing too, yeah.
so it's a majority vote. If you're the 5, then you're the 5.
So the motion carries.
Carries.
Okay.
Motion carries.
As president, I don't know why you didn't know that. You misled us.
You could get fired, you know that?
You can't fire a
Are
slave.
you on tweet?
You can't fire a slave.
You're about to get tweeted. That motion carries. Justin, next item.
Okay, we're moving, is my mic on? Okay. We're moving to 1910-01. This is a property located at 1318 East Center Street.
Right. Yeah.
Petitioner is requesting, the petitioner has requested a variance from development standards to permit an internally illuminated sign within an R2 zoning district. The existing sign already contains the necessary wiring, however, this feature has not been used since the sign was installed. The petitioner would like to increase the visibility of their sign by having it illuminated until 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. each night. The existing monument sign is within the Center Street Overlay District. The Overlay District is designated to encourage professional uses while retaining some of the residential characteristics. The petitioner's request to have an internally illuminated sign along this corridor would not be out of character with the adjacent properties. In addition, the potential light pollution created by the illumination of this sign would be negligible when compared to the traffic signal to the northeast of the property. So the planning department would recommend the approval of this variance based on the findings of fact and the criteria that was just illustrated. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
When was that original sign built for the lighting on the inside?
The petitioner might be able to answer that
Okay.
question. I'm not exactly sure the year, but I think it predated some of our sign ordinances.
The sign that's up there now's been there about 3 years. There was a sign on that same spot that was internally lit before, but, I honestly don't know why the guy that put the sign in didn't put lights in.
So there are no lights in it now, but it could,
No,
Correct.
it
but
could be retrofitted for lighting internally.
there is electricity to it because it's the electricity that was there for the old sign.
Okay, now, this is 3 years ago. What was there before that, though? There was a sign on that same
There
location.
was a sign about this wide and about this high, the old standard church sign. I mean, the ones that were put in the 40s.
Okay. Fortunately, that predates me.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry to say it doesn't.
Well, you look pretty good then.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments before we
Justin,
open it?
I have a question.
Yes.
The visibility of the sign, having illuminated till 11 or 12 at night, is there an ordinance regarding that? What's your guidelines?
It's not supposed to spill off of the property, so there's not necessarily something that says they have to turn off at a certain time. But if there are adjacent properties where the light is spilling onto, that's against the ordinance. So this one's oriented north-south. So there are residential properties to the north of this, but if you ever drive through there at night, you'll see the lights, the traffic signals that change are very bright compared to what this would be. An internally lit sign is not.
So the other church signs that are on Center Street, do they go off at midnight?
I haven't gone through to notice when they would turn off.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, not me.
I don't know right now, but a couple of years ago, I worked at the mall where Carson's was, can't think of the name.
Yeah.
And I was up and down at Center Street quite often because I lived on Clark Street at the time. And there weren't any church signs that were off at 2 or 3 in the morning.
They were still lit?
They were still lit.
Okay.
So it's not an ordinance issue. Was there a mailing?
Yes.
And any other, no returns at all? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, sir. You can now speak on behalf of, because we didn't get to that part yet.
I got a question.
Okay.
Can I get him to say his name first?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Pastor Howard Immel, spelled Immel. It's a hard one for people to get right.
Go ahead.
My question is, I love your wife's blouse. Is she telling us she'd rather be in Hawaii? There we go. I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty. That's all right. We'll all go. Will it be better?
Well, we just slipped down the slope, didn't we?
Yeah, we really did.
Glad your mic isn't on.
It is on.
One other lit sign right next to it's the health food store sign, and I believe that's on 24/7 also.
And that is an internally lit sign, as I recall?
That's an
Yeah.
internally lit sign. It's
And that's
on-
your next door neighbor as well?
Yeah, it's our
Right.
next
Okay,
door.
yeah.
Okay. Any other reasons you'd like to put for the positive side, sir, while you're here?
No,
Okay. Well, I'm looking around the audience. I don't think there's anybody other than your wife to speak against this, so we're gonna assume that you'll be traveling home together without the silent treatment going on. We will therefore at least request anybody in opposition. Closed to the public.
Well, we've done these kind of signs up and down Center Street for some time, and they've never been an issue.
Well, the only one we had, believe it or not, was the one that was closer to the historical distance, which was the insurance company on that side of the railroad track.
What was the one where, for God's sakes, our previous member that was home forever, he had a business there, and, you know,
Woodward?
yeah, he had a business there, we were wrestling around with the signs. on
Well, yeah, he had several. He had them over
Yeah.
this way and then one on Center Street, but
But by and large, they've popped up periodically, and I'm not aware if they've ever been a problem, particularly these things tend to be
Right.
subliminal as far as
Right.
their lighting. And they're not exactly right on top of anybody either.
No, and when they're internally lit,
Yeah, they're,
I think it's probably equal to or below what it's doing now.
Yeah,
Look at the light.
exactly.
All right, with that,
I'm gonna make a motion that we, go ahead and approve this
I'll second that.
2019.
seconded by Dan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I have to make sure I ask that now, because it's gonna caught. That carries unanimously. Next item of business.
That's it.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Tammy, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Stand in adjournment.
Now, dance. Dance.
Dance.
Yeah, she's
Grandma.
gonna- She's gonna get
Thank
to
you, sir.
dance, she's gonna be
Now,
late.
don't forget, you've gotta take her to Hawaii now.
She paid me to say that.
Bribing a city official and we're still on mic.
Give me a signature pages for us?
What's that?
No, I forgot.
Do that?